Welcome back to the Bernat Blanket Stitch Along, and we are in week number 5. Okay, so let's catch up on week number 4. This is what we made. Look at that. This is where you should be. You should have 48 inches of this beautiful panel here. And here is my other color scheme that I'm working on. Isn't that great? I love it. Okay, so if you didn't get that video, be sure and check the previous one out, work up to it, get your panel done, because you're gonna need to do weeks 1 through 4 to do this week's. That's your first clue. All right, let's get started. We're going to be putting together all of the pieces that you've done in the previous weeks. Let's get back into some of the supplies because you're going to need a few extra. You will be sewing together in this first section, and then you're going to be knitting some things together in this next section here. So we need that extra circular needle that we talked about in the very first week. You will also need another straight needle that's a US 11 or 8 millimeter. I've got a couple, I only need one, but I've got showing a couple of double pointed needles here, a DPN. You can also use a straight needle if you like. This one's a short one, long, doesn't matter. Another circular if you have one, just needs to be the right size. And I actually worked on my samples with this one, but for our demonstration purposes, I'm going to show it to you on this wood needle so you can tell which one is my extra needle here. So when we get to that, I'll remind you about it. You're also going to need your tapestry, wide-eyed tapestry needle, and you will also need to get some stitch markers that are removable. Now these have like a little clamp effect. We're just going to be using these to hold together and show where we need to work. You can also work with other removable stitch markers. Here's a few. You need at least 3. I'm actually going to probably use more in here, but 3 is the minimum of what I would suggest. These are just different types of removable stitch markers that you might use. You'll see how to use them later and find out if what you got in stock is going to work for you. All right, let's start by removing the last couple of weeks. We're going to go back down to week 1 and 2. Okay, so we've got our panels here, and we don't need our circular needles just yet for this part. We'll go over the instructions in just a moment. So for this part, you're just going to need weeks 1 and 2 and your tapestry needle and these removable stitch markers. All right, so let's get into the instructions. So we are going to be sewing along the side of the edge of strips from weeks 1 and 2 together with the single week 2 strip in the center, using the flat seam and taking care to match the pattern changes. So this is what I've got laid out here. So this is the one where we worked with 1 strip, and then we have on either side of it week 1. So this is week 1, week 2, and week 1 again. And then these edges here are going to get lined up. So what you want is to line up all at the bottom, all of the cast on edges, and make sure you are showing the right side up. And on the back here you can tell because you can see where that pearl side is and the second color is coming in. So you want to line those all up flat like this, and let's move on with our instructions. Okay, and then this tip is just saying basically what I just said is about lining up your cast on edges. The cast off edges will be at the other side of it. And let's go ahead and sew those on together. This part where it says first joining seam, that's actually the next set of instructions. So ignore that until you're completely done with what we're about to do here. All right, so you've aligned everything up, and we're going to take our removable stitch markers here and use them to put these pieces together. Now, this doesn't state that in your pattern. I'm just suggesting that you go ahead and use this in this instance. They will be used later on. So what I do is I clamp these all together, and then I have my seams nice and aligned, and I know that they're not going to go anywhere, and I can use this to join all of them at the same time. Go ahead and cut your yarn that you want to use, and you can see I've started stitching one together here, and you can see that the seam is not noticeable. This is a flat seam. It's going to look the same on the back as it is on the front, and you want to pick a color that you've used most often. That happens to be the contrast B. This is the light teal. In this case here, it was a Sonoma on the other blanket on the main pattern. So use whatever you have the most color of, and that's going to be this sort of checkerboard pattern here. So wherever you see the seed stitch, that's the color you're going to use. Get your wide-eyed tapestry needle out, and you're going to want about 3 times the length of your seam that you're going to make. So pull out enough yarn and then go ahead and cut that yarn, and we're going to start making this flat seam together. Okay, thread your needle. I'm going to go to the end where we've got about 6 inches, and I'm going to hold on to this at the bottom of week 2 panel, and the bottom left stitch down here. Okay, and then pull through all that extra yarn. I'm holding on to that 6-inch portion, so I've got a nice tail. And then we're going to switch over to the left, which this is week 1, and do the same thing. Go up through that bottom stitch, and I'm kind of pushing down on that 6-inch part so that we don't pull it out. Okay, and now I pulled that, and then I'm going to go back up. This is the only time I'm going to go back up through this first stitch here, and this will kind of lock that in. It's not a formal knot, but it's going to lock that in so our tail doesn't get away from us. So we're going to pull that up, not too tight. All right, now we're going to be working from right to left and left to right. So if you start on the right, then you're going to go to the left and back and forth. We're working on the top of the stitches, and we're just going to be picking up these little purl bumps here. See these purl bumps here on the very edge? And on this part that's the week 2, you're going to be picking up these outward purl bumps here as well. So it's the same thing, and we're not going to be pulling tight in the end, so just going to keep your tension nice and loose but firm, so it's not going to be like super open, but don't pull it too tight because then it'll pucker too much. So we've started on the right. We're going to pick up this stitch here and pull all the way through. Okay, and then go over to the right. We're on the left, so we go to the right, pull that through, and then go over to the left and pick up and pull all the way through. And that's really it. We're going to be working along, joining this entire length of these 2 panels here. You want to make sure that it's not so much that when you pull apart it's going to be seen, but you want to pull it a little bit tight here, and it's going to be a nice even join. Go to the right here, and you're going to basically be crisscrossing like that. Now you may have a part where say you have too many seat stitches, you have too many purl bumps on this side but not enough on this side. In that case, you would want to what's called ease the fullness. You don't want this to pucker because it maybe has too many stitches, and you're left in the end when you get up to this point up here, you don't want it to be off. Okay, so we don't want the design to look like this and then we're left with something uneven. So what we do in that case is we actually end up pulling together 2 stitches at a time. In that case, we'll pick up 1, 2, and pull it in, and then go to the other side. And that's really all you would do in that case. Let's jump over to this other one that I've been continuing on. This is what it looks like on the other panel. Same thing. Once you get that other side done, you're going to move over to the right over here, and you're going to do the same thing. So this one's been working back and forth, and let's say that I had gotten into this spot where I've got too many of this stitch here. I can go ahead, and because I'm not too tight, I could go ahead and pull this out, and I've determined that I need to have those line up a little bit more. I would pull that completely out, and then I would make sure I go through both of these at the same time in order to fix that. So this is how you kind of problem solve on the go. So we're going to pick those 2 up instead, and then go over to the left. And now we're back on track, and we'll be picking up on the right. And then when we have, it's a sewing term called ease the fullness. So we've made that a nice join here. It's nice and even where the boxes are going to be all lined up. All right, so continue on that flat seam and meet me back up for the next section. When you come to the end of your section, you're just going to continue going back and forth just as we have. I'm out of the purl bump, so I'm just going to go through this last spot here on the end, on the cast off, and do the same on the other side. And then I'm going to go back around through that same spot again to lock it in. Okay, and so now I can just cut that yarn, and then we'll weave in our tails. You can do that now, or you can do that after we're done with the next section. All right, pause your video and complete yours. I'll meet you back up for the next section. All right, we're going to make our first joining seam. It starts right down here. First joining seam with the right side facing an A, which is the dark gray for me, and the first circular needle up here. We're going to pick up and knit 96 stitches. Okay, so it's 12 stitches across each block pattern, so that's your first hint. We're going to go across the edge of week 1 and week 2 strips. Now, that just means when they say week 1 and week 2 strips, that means that part that you just sewed together. So it's just referring to it as a group, like right here. So this part here is what we're going to be looking at. And we're picking up the stitches along that edge. And then we're going to knit a row, and then we're going to purl a row, and then break the yarn and leave the stitches on the needle. Let's do that now. I'm going to show you what it means by across the top edge. So this is my piece here, and this was my cast on edge here. And if I turn it, we had started with this color, right? This is easy, to me, is easier to see when we did week 2. So I know that this is the first part. So we're going to be working from right to left, just as when we normally read a chart on knitting pattern. And we'll be picking up the stitches along this top edge here, this part here. So the way that we can do that is we can mark the midway point along the edge here to make sure we can count out 96. We can divide that evenly in half to make 48 stitches, and then we divide it in half again to make 24. So between the corner and then the first marker, which would be right here, approximately, that would be 24 stitches you knit into here. So about 12 stitches per each block. So you'll fold your work in half, and then when you get to the midway point, and now my sample right here, this is a half size, but the larger size, it will be about where this fourth block is. When you fold that in half, you're just going to mark it, okay? And then you're going to fold it in half again and mark it. And the same thing with the other side. Fold that again, and you're going to mark it. Okay. Now on yours, you're going to have 8 panels. I only have these 4. Okay. So you're going to have 8 blocks across. I only have 4 blocks across on my small piece. So between each block here is about 12 stitches, and then that will get you your 96 across. Let's pick those up now. I've got my edge stitch here. I've got my yarn A, and we're going to leave a tail at the back. We're going to be picking up with our needle, going to pull through these 2 side stitches here. So go through, yarn over, just as you're pulling through a knit stitch, and then slip that right through. So that's picking up 1 stitch. And then we're going to go skip over this bar right here and go into this next stitch here, yarn over, and pull that on through. Make sure you're yarning over with the part that's coming from the ball and not this tail back here. Okay, skip over and go through, yarn over, and pull through. So we've got about 3 on here. You can let that tail go, and you're going to go across to pick up about 12 to this first block here. So we're going to go in, yarn over, and go through, and keep picking them up. You may have to skip through a couple of bars to pick up the right amount of stitches. This is about halfway, and you can see that I've picked up 7 stitches here, and I really should be at 6. So I can go through and evaluate and see if I've got too many picked up, and I can go back a little bit and pop those out and maybe do a different sequence of skipping over maybe 2 bars a little earlier to make that even out. Okay, so now I picked up 6 stitches, and I'm about the halfway point. So that's about how much I'm going to need to pick up. So you want to look at your own work and examine it and make sure that you're picking up evenly across. Continue going across until you get to the very end, and make sure and count. I recommend counting every block to make sure that you've picked up 12, no more than that, no less than that. That way it's going to be evenly distributed throughout your edge. And once you're done, meet me back up and we'll do the next row. Okay, the next row in the pattern is knit. You are on the wrong side, so you picked up all these stitches. Your first needle with the circular should be filled up completely, and now you need your second circular needle, and we're just going to insert that in and knit across. So all the stitches will get transferred onto that second needle. All right, knit across, and I'll meet you back up for the next row. See you in a moment. Okay, we just did this one called next row, which was on the wrong side, and we knit, and now we're on the next row again, which was the purl row. We're going to be on the right side of the work. We'll break our yarn, which also means cut, and leave the stitches on the needles. So you want to go ahead and start purling your work here. Work your way across, and when you're finished, just cut it. So you're going to cut and leave a tail or break it. And I'll join you back up to put the next piece on. Okay, you finished purling and breaking that yarn and leaving the stitches on the needle. This little tip is just discussing how to divide that in half, which we've already gone over. And with the right side facing an A, color A, and second circular needle, pick up and knit 96 stitches evenly across side edge of slip stitch tweed section. So we're going to be picking up stitches just as we did before on the weeks 1 and 2, but now we're going to be working with this section here. This is from week 3. So you're going to want to pick that up, okay? And then we're going to leave the yarn attached to that and not break it. So let's do that now, and then we'll move on to this next sentence here. Just so you know where to pick up, this is what you just did. You've got this section here, and you can see my cast on edge is on the right here. Let's lay this slip stitch tweed section here, and I've got my cast on edge, and it's going to be lining up, this side edge is going to be lining up with this here. So I'm going to be picking up stitches from this edge. Now I'm right-handed, so I'm going to spin this around like this, and I'm going to be picking up from right here. So this is where I'm starting, and I can go ahead and start folding things in half and determining where that center stitch is. Okay, so between this marker and this one is where you would do 96. You would divide that in half, and that's the 48 stitches, but you're going to divide it in half again, and then that way you've got those 3 sections. So you can take 96 divided by 4, and that tells you how many stitches in each section you're going to get. So go ahead and mark your panel and meet me back up for picking up the stitches on this week 3 panel. Okay, so we've got our color A, and we're going to want to pick up these stitches just as we did before. We're going to yarn over and pull that on through right at this edge here. And now when I go along this line here, I don't want to pick up just one side stitch. I actually want to go in through 2. And it just so happens that where this little slip section is, it gives us a nice line. So I'm not going to go past this color A right here. So I'm going to go through and pick up these stitches evenly, go wrap around and pull that through and skip over, wrap around and pull through, wrap around, which is our yarn over, and pull that on through, and continue going across. And if you notice that you've got too much, you're just going to want to take one out again and even that up, and you can skip over a few if you need to, if you find that your stitch count is not even. I went ahead and added an extra so that I know where 12 stitches are coming up, and I can check my work as again I did last time. I'm about halfway, and I've got 7. That's enough. Now I know that I need to space these out just a little bit more. So continue going across until you have got all 96 stitches picked up and knit, and we will finish joining these 2 sections together. See you in a moment. Okay, we left off where we leave the yarn attached. So this is right here. I've flipped it over to the wrong side. Okay, my working yarn is still here and attached to the ball. And we're going to move on to where it says having weeks 1 and 2 strips at the top of the work, align stitches on first circular needle, the weeks 1 and 2 strips, that's all together, against the stitches on the second circular needle. Okay, so let's just do that next. Okay, so I've got this set here that was still on the first needle, and then we've got the second needle back here. So I've got my wrong sides together, and this is face up. This is my cast on side here, and this one also has my cast on side and this edge here. So we're along the edges here, and we're going to start by lining our needles up to where they're next to each other. This will line our stitches up. All right, I'm going to do one more thing that doesn't state, but I like it, is I can line them up and keep them attached by using my removable stitch markers and just clamping them together along some of this cord here. And then your work stays nice and neat together, especially if you have to put it down, then it's not out of place. All right, let's start back on here. And it says using one straight needle, knit one stitch from each circular needle together twice, then begin to cast off stitches from both circular needles at the same time, joining weeks 1 and 2 strips to slip stitch tweed section. All right, so let me show you what that looks like. We've got our first and second needle here, we've got our working yarn, and we're going to take these stitches right here with a second needle. So I normally would use this one because I like to use the same materials together, but I'm going to use this so you can see where this next needle, the third one, is coming from. So we're going to go through as if to knit on this first stitch on both of our needles, the circular ones, and yarn over and pull through. So I'm knitting those two together and let them fall off those needles. This stitch is done here. Now we're going to do the second stitch the same way. Go through both, yarn over, and knit through those together. Let them drop off. Okay, now we're going to cast off. We're going to take this back stitch, the first one, and lift it up and over the second one. And then now we've just cast that off. We're going to keep going across, knitting together the two, letting it fall off, and then cast that off. So that's just binding one stitch off on there, and you're going to go along until you have no more stitches left to do. And I'll join you back when you've got a few stitches left on these needles to show you how to end it. See you in a little bit. Pause your video and continue. Okay, I'm down to the last 3 stitches. I've got the 2 on the left that I need to knit together. And we pull those out, and I just gave my yarn a little tug here from the original stitches that I picked up, just to make sure that is nice and even tension. Put down my other circular needle, one of them, and I'm going to lift this loop back over there and do the final cast off. I'm going to pull that loop on through, and I'm going to break that yarn. You can also use scissors here. And pull the yarn through, and then now you have left is your tails to weave in. So you should have 3 tails at this side, and then the couple at the other end. And we're going to move on to the second joining seam. Okay, we're on the second joining seam, and with the right side facing in A, color A, we're going to pick up our first circular needle and pick up 96 stitches. We're going to pick those up and knit them 12 stitches across each pattern block. So we're back to that weeks 1 and 2 strips. We'll do just as we did before, knit on the wrong side, purl on the right side, and break yarn and leave the stitches on the needle. So let's look at that. So you just completed these up, and now we're looking at the this is actually my bind off side or cast off side, and we're on the opposite end. This is where all the stitches need to be picked up. So just as before, we're going to measure out and look at all these blocks, or on the blocks you can at least see that you need 12 stitches per block, Go right into those edge stitches there and get your color A and yarn over and knit 1, 2, and keep going all the way across until you get your 96 stitches on. Then you'll stop, you'll knit back, and then purl back and break the yarn just as you did before. Be sure to rewind in the video to see how we did that. All right, pause your video and I'll meet you back for the second part of the joining of the second seam. We broke the yarn on that last section there, and with the right sides facing A and second circular needle, we're going to pick up and knit stitches evenly across for the shaker texture section. That's this section right here. And we're going to leave the yarn attached and do what we did just before on the very first time we did this. So this is that 3 needle bind off here that we worked on. Okay, so this little needle right here, when you're looking at this, now that you've done it before, you'll see that these are the 2 circular needles, and then this is that extra little needle here that we use to bind off. All right, so let's go ahead and pick up the stitches first, and then we'll do the 3 needle bind off one more time. So in order to get them all lined up, I've got what I've just finished on this section up here. This is the original cast on edge. And so I've got it turned around, and this was my cast on edge here. And I know that I started with this color, and it just so happens that I ended on a different color. So I know that I am on the correct end. And I'm going to use my stitch markers again and start measuring out what is the halfway point, so I know how to divide my stitches, and then what is a third of the way down or a quarter of the way down, so I can divide my stitches evenly. 96 divided by 4. And so in those sections, you know where to divide it up. Now, of course, again, this again is a small half version, so in between mine are going to be 12 stitches, and of course you can put them in to help yourself. I think 12 is a really nice number, so that you can, every 12, you know that you're doing it very evenly. All right, let's start picking these up and see how it is different in this section. Okay, you've got your tail here, and pick up these stitches through here, yarn over and pull through, okay, and then go down. And you're going to be going in between these different colored areas here. So we've got 2, go between these, 3, pick up 4, 5, 6, and I've been picking up too many. So now we're going to do every other one. Let's go back to that very first one and skip that whole colored section there. Yarn over and pull through. That's picking up 2. Skip 2 color sections and go to the next one. Pick up 3, 4. Oops. Let's do that again. That's 4, 5, 6. Okay, so we can see that that method is going to pick up about even. You may have to space it out, change it up just a little bit, but you want to space it out as evenly as you can. And this is that whole ease in the fullness that we were talking about, trying to make sure that these are picked up evenly across. So continue on until you get to that first stitch marker. Make sure you're even and continue along. I'll see you when you have picked up all these stitches across. Okay, just as before, when we finish this side, we flip it over to be on the wrong side, and then place the weeks 1 and 2 on top with the yarn ready. We've got the broken yarn at the front and back of this one, and we're on the right side or actually on the wrong side of this last week, week 4 panel. Put these 2 together with wrong sides together. So on the top is the weeks 1 and 2, and use the working yarn and your second needle, or actually it's a third needle, the straight needle, going through. And this is the same as we did before. We're going to knit these 2 stitches together. Okay, and once we have this 1 stitch on here, now it becomes a repetitive thing. So you are going to knit 2 together, and drop those off the old needles. Lift the back loop. Either one of these needles is fine. Lift the back loop over the front of the needle, and you've now casted that off. Do the same again. Knit those two together. Drop them off the old needles. Lift the back loop over the top and cast it off. Continue working along until you have knit all the stitches but the last 3, and pause your video and I'll see you back in a little bit. We have 3 stitches left on our needles, and we're going to knit 2 together just as we've been doing. And I'm going to go ahead and tighten up these last couple of stitches to make sure that tension is the same amount, and lift that back stitch, that first one, over the last. And now we're just going to pull that on through, break our yarn, and then lift the rest of that through. And wow, you have all the panels together. So now you just have these last few tails to weave in on this end, and then one on the other. And let's shoot to the end, and I want to show you what this looks like, and I'll show you the other colorway as well. See you in a second. So how did you do on clue number 5? I can't wait to see you do clue number 6, and we finish this up together. All right, so be sure and head on over to the Stitch Along page. Post your questions. I know you may have them. If you want to make sure that I see them, hit hashtag GoodKnitKisses, and be sure and also hit hashtag Handmade with Joanne when you post your photos. We can't wait to see them. Remember, there are other people on the page that you can chat it up with, and they may have other tips and tricks. So let's all kind of work together, and this is so fun. I'm just enjoying stitching along with you all. All right, so can't wait to see you next week. Join me next Monday to finish up on clue number 6. Have a great day and happy knitting. Bye-bye.